Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Brandon, aka FFCLAY from Transcend Global, back with another video real quick. I just wanted to jump on real quick and talk about the law of assumption versus the law of attraction. It originally came to me yesterday, but I didn't get around to it. I wound up having a rough day at the earlier part of the day, which is actually what birthed this revelation in me, and I never got around to it, and so I don't want to keep putting it off. Like I told, my ultimate goal is consistency, and so I want to do better at completing what I set out and start, or what I intend to do. But long story short, talking about the law of assumption versus the law of attraction, as I understand it, and that's not to say that it is not being taught properly, but in my experience, I have not heard every law of attraction or manifestation teacher, or I haven't taken every course, so I can't speak but only from my experience. And essentially, we all are saying the same thing. Nothing is new under the sun. And spiritual principles have been passed down from the beginning of ages. So essentially, all we're doing is passing on the information that is already known innately within us. We're just passing it through. You're getting our personality, you're getting our perspective through the ego. But essentially, all of it is saying the same thing, just maybe from a slightly different perspective. But the way that I understand it is the law of attraction to me seems like more of a striving to attain something, as opposed to the law of assumption seems like a more organic approach. Like, for instance, when I think of the law of attraction, I think of visualization, meditation, affirmations, all those things, vision boards, living from the end, acting as if, and all of those things are great and true, but it feels like to me that it's striving to attain something, as opposed to the law of assumption is, actually it is what they would call acting as if, or living in the end, or living from the end. It's essentially much simpler to me, because you're simply assuming the state or the feeling of the reality of how you would feel at the end of whatever it is that you desire. And so essentially, we're still doing some of the same things, but it's not to attain. It's, if anything, it's to reprogram the subconscious mind to accept the reality of what you are trying to attain. And so what that means is you will still visualize and meditate. You may still even affirm. You may have vision boards, or whatever it is that you desire to use, or you like to use. And I'm not saying get rid or do away with any of it. You still can use those things, but just know that it is to the end. Those are means to the end. The end is ultimately to reprogram you to live from the state of what it is that you seek to attain, as opposed to trying to earn it by your efforts. And so I think about the law of assumption, it's something that we are already doing naturally, every day, subconsciously, as a byproduct of how we've been programmed, and how we've been created. We already live by assumption every day of our lives. And one instance, one of the main examples that I can use is either you're working a job, or you've gone a long time without a job, and you get that initial call, or you get the confirmation in the interview that you have the job. At that point, you physically still are at the location that you were prior to receiving that news, but mentally and emotionally, you begin to travel towards the end. Say, for instance, you gotta work. Any job you work, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly, 9 times out of 10, you have to work a week, or a week, almost a week and a half, 2 weeks before you actually get paid. And so, for instance, if you get the job on a Monday or Tuesday, you're not going to get paid that Friday. You're going to get paid the Friday, or whatever day they get paid of the following week. But what you do is you already experience the reality of working that job, or doing a job that you have signed up for. So you have a kind of general visualization or picture, and you start to, just as a natural byproduct, recruit the emotions that go with that. So it may be excitement, it may be relief, it may be confidence. Maybe you've gone a long time, or a nice little time without any money. You haven't been able to care for yourself. So there will be relief. There will be a sense of security, even though it's false security. There will be excitement. There will be happiness. There will be joy. There will be all these type of emotions that you feel, but what it is that you really want the money, and so you're going to go and feel the experience of how you would feel on that following week when you get that direct deposit. And even though you haven't did 1 minute or 1 hour of work, you're already living from the end. And if you like me and you really in your logic or your reasoning or your left brain, then you've already calculated the hours, how much you get paid per hour, so you know how much you grossing, you know how much you may potentially net after taxes. You've did the math on double time, overtime, triple time, holiday pay. You've already done all of this, and you've experienced it in your mind and emotionally, and you've worked yourself up to that state. Naturally, as a byproduct, it's not nothing that you were consciously trying to do, but physically you haven't left anywhere. You haven't done anything. All of this is happening as a byproduct of what you are doing psychologically and emotionally. And we assume all types of states, all day, every day. Our whole life is the assumption of different states or different roles or different characters, whether that be a parent, whether that be a spouse, husband, wife, employee, employer, CEO, investor, trader, whatever it is, we are assuming these roles, and by repetition, they become natural, and we operated them so much as a byproduct subconsciously that we don't realize that we're doing that. There's a whole process that we're doing that we can use and leverage to replicate those results in our lives and things that we desire. I mean, we do it subconsciously, and we do it for things, and we replicate, and we accentuate, and we keep the program and the cycle and the script of our lives going up until this point, and it's been on autopilot. But there has been hit or miss, and for the most part, we may not be all the way happy with our results. And so the idea is to learn the mechanics behind how we do what we do and leverage it for what it is that we really want. And that's the simplicity of it. Only thing that we really need is an intention, or a visual picture of what it is that we want to attain, where we want to go, who we want to be, or what we want to do. And we need the emotion. The emotional aspect of it is the power behind it. And so that is your fuel, like I always say. And so we want the emotion of already being, doing, having, or attaining what it is that the visual picture represents. And we just need repetition, and we just do it until it becomes natural and it becomes second nature. Ultimately, that is the law of assumption, or that's just life, the just natural byproduct of life and how we live. And so once we know it, we can begin to leverage it and work with it and make it a natural process of how we live and produce the results that it is that we want to produce. So again, I'm not saying do away with the meditations and the visualizations, affirmations, scripting, living as if, and all of those things. You will continue to do those things in whatever capacity that feels natural to you. But after a while, they won't be as ritualistic or obligatory. They will just be something that you are compelled to do. They become second nature, and they take on a life of themselves. Sorry, my mouth is dry. Y'all probably think like, man, is he retarded or something? But to my understanding, when I think about the law of assumption, for me, being intellectual and highly logical, linear thinking person at times, but also highly intuitive, I have a gift that unfortunately helps me to make the most simplest concepts complicated. But then coming back full circle, I can get and go so deep that I come back around and make what was once simple and now that is complicated, and then I can come back around and make it simple again. And so we don't want to do anything that is too complicated, because we won't stick with it. So what we need is something that is simple, something that challenges us, but something that we can implement and that we can be consistent in, and that we can implement as a part of our daily lives until it becomes second nature and takes on a life of itself. And so it only takes maybe about 10-15 minutes, I would say 2 or 3 times a day, to just sit and be intentional and to consciously visualize. And not only for, I know my one thing with me is that I've always been a visual person. I've always been a seer. I've always been an intuitive person. I always consider myself a visionary, and so for years I lived in frustration, not really quite understanding why, if I was to my knowledge or to my understanding, I felt like I was living from the end, or I was visualizing and seeing my life as what I wanted it to be, but it was hit or miss propositions, more so misses. You know, I had a whole lot more losses and disappointments and things that didn't manifest or happen how I felt they should, and it was contrary to what I thought I was doing. I thought I was visualizing. I thought that I was thinking positive. I thought that I was praying and affirming or confessing scripture and all those things. But what it did is it left me with a whole lot of frustration and hopelessness and a whole lot of questions. But ultimately, if you seek long enough, you will find. And so I stuck with the process. And that's not to say that I was always diligent, that I was always on board, or that I didn't have seasons, weeks and months, and, you know, possibly years where I drifted, or I got off the path, or I got frustrated and thought that I was leaving. But I mean, ultimately, we can't go anywhere. You can't leave God. God is in us as us, so you can't leave him, even if you tried, even if you wanted to. And so I wound up coming full circle, and so with the understanding that I'm getting, I am seeing results, and a lot of times before you see manifested results, you will notice that your life, your internal life, will take on a different tone. You'll feel more confident, you'll feel more poised, you'll feel more peaceful for no reason, you'll feel more joyful for no reason. And I don't say happy, because I believe that that's conditional. Happiness is conditional or contingent upon happenings, you know. So it's like a resident default setting of like peace and joy that you will have, and it'll be for no particular reason at all, and it will even be it'll be contrary to what's going on at the time. And not saying that it's always bad or that you always have resistance, but it can just be for no reason at all. But you will especially notice it at times where it is counterintuitive or not natural to have these things. And so you'll what I said a couple videos back, as far as trying to think 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 individual thoughts, you really want to focus on the emotion, because the emotion has all of those thoughts and more attached to it. So if you can get yourself to that place to where you can feel from the end of that emotion that it is that you were seeking, had you attained what it is that you were seeking, if you can live from that place, it will supply all of the thoughts that you need. It's just like a seed. A seed, once you put it in the right soil, in the right conditions, and water it, and allow it to get the right amount of sunlight, but mainly the environment and the soil is the biggest thing. It recruits all of the nutrients and everything that it needs from the soil. You just got to plant it. And it's the same thing with our desires. As long as we supply a visual representation as much as we can get it, and then we get the emotional component of it. So not only do you want to see it, but you want to feel it, hear it, taste it, touch it, and smell it. And then repetition, and continue to be diligent in it, in spite of what you see, in spite of the up days, down days, not so good days. I don't want to say bad days, but in spite of resistance, in spite of opposition, in spite of what you see or feel, or what's going on around you in your life right now, you have to cultivate that internal world and that internal reality until the point to where it becomes more real than anything that you can tangibly, physically touch, taste, hear, smell, and all of those things. So essentially what it is imagination is spiritual sensation. Neville told us, and I think he got that from William Blake. But imagination is not just what you can see in your mind's eye or internally, but it's also what we can experience. Just like we have 5 senses that we know of on the physical plane, we have the fundamental basic ground 5 senses and even more. So just like you can touch, taste, hear, smell, and see, on the outside, you can do the same on the inside. And so what it is that we want to cultivate our reality from the inside out rather than the outside in. So I just wanted to jump in real quick. Like, share, comment, subscribe, give feedback if you got any value from it. Constructive criticism, all those good things. And I definitely will be continuing to drop knowledge. I'll be back in. As my time is getting more free, I will definitely be giving more and uploading more. But until next time, peace.